What's up, guys? What's up? Welcome back. Dr. Jaws here, and tonight we are covering the Carolina Hammerhead, Sphyrna gilberti. Hey, Howard, what's up? Good evening to you, too. Thank you so much for submitting this really cool piece of art featuring this cryptic species. This is or I guess I shouldn't say cryptic, but it is a very new species. It's a brand new, newly discovered species. I've mentioned it a couple times on the stream before. But this is a new hammerhead shark, and it's really cool to think that of all the groups of sharks that could have new species, that hammerheads at the family Sphyrnidae have a new species in the Carolina hammerhead. So I'm really excited to talk about this shark tonight. But hope you had a good weekend, and thank you again for this really fun piece of art. I love the lighting on this really awesome hammerhead picture of the Carolina hammerhead, Sphyrna gilberti, along with a octopus, the California two-spot octopus. So that's a really fun illustration. I love that you captured the octopus doing its classic release of black ink as like a distraction for predators. So that's super cool. One thing I really love about this piece of art is that you capture the high fins, the high first dorsal fin, which is characteristic of hammerhead sharks. And then also, I really appreciate that it does have like the indentation in the cephalofoil that's characteristic of scalloped hammerheads, which is really great because the Carolina hammerhead and the scalloped hammerhead, they look virtually indistinguishable from one another. They look so similar, which is part of why it's a newly discovered species. It was only until scientists realized by doing genetic testing and then also eventually counting like the vertebrae that they realized, oh my gosh, there's two species of hammerhead sharks hiding in plain sight. Hey Roy, what's up? Welcome back as well. Hope you had a good weekend also. Yes, I agreed. Love the counter shading colors as well. So, So this is going to be a really cool species to cover. Especially as far as like trying to figure out the differences between this and a scalloped hammerhead, and kind of what led scientists to discover this being a new species. So, but yeah, thank you so much again, Howard, for submitting this really awesome piece of art. And yeah, I think with that, we'll go ahead and dive in to the Carolina hammerhead. So, here is the original image, of the type species, or type specimen. So we've talked about type specimens before, but these are basically the physical examples of sharks that are kind of like the anchor for an entire species name. So it's like it's the individual, or I guess it's the individual to which the name Sphyrna gilberti is attached. So like it's kind of like it's the first individual that was discovered. And the first individual that has been labeled Sphyrna gilberti or the Carolina hammerhead, and this is the individual that scientists can compare or reference with other new hammerheads, just to make sure whether or not it's the same species. So, so this is the holotype, or like the main type specimen, which kind of is the anchor for the name Sphyrna gilberti. We've talked about type specimens before. It's a little confusing to it's kind of hard to describe. It's a little bit like like measurements, like weights and measures, like how do you define a pound or a kilogram? And there's like somewhere in the world there's like it's like a cube of I forget the material. Like let's just say it's like a cube of steel that is exactly 1 kilogram, and that's like the model or the basis to which all units known as kilograms are set. Like it's kind of like the same thing. It's really confusing to describe. I don't know if that makes sense. Where it's like it's basically like the anchor of the entire species name. So every animal and every plant has a type specimen. Usually, or if not always, they're stored in museum collections. So a lot of sharks have type specimens that date back hundreds of years, and they're preserved in like alcohol or formalin. And then, yeah, so, but this is the holotype for Sphyrna gilberti. So immediately you can see some characteristics that are really reminiscent of the scalloped hammerhead. So the high first dorsal fin with the rounded apex, which is kind of cool. Great hammerhead sharks have the really sharp sickle-shaped first dorsal fin apex. but scalloped hammerheads have more of the rounded apex. I think I have a picture of the head. Here we go. This is a juvenile. This is definitely like a little individual, but it's kind of amazing to see that you have the classic scallop shape. So you do have the indentation here at the very top of the cephalofoil, which where did Howard's already go? There we go. Howard, you captured really well that indentation right there. That's a key characteristic of scalloped hammerheads and Carolina hammerheads. This distinguishes it from the smooth hammerheads, where the smooth hammerhead has just like a single bump. They don't have this indentation. It's just a smooth interior part of the cephalofoil. The scalloped hammerheads have the indentation inside Carolina hammerheads, and makes it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to identify the species in the wild. And that actually is a really big conservation concern where we're just learning about the Carolina hammerhead and wondering, where, like, how is it doing? How well is it doing? It's probably critically endangered because the scalloped hammerhead is officially endangered. So Carolina hammerheads, we really are not sure like how they're doing, but it's probably not faring very well. One thing that's kind of interesting that you can see here, and this applies to a lot of hammerhead species, it almost looks like there's a slight difference between the left and the right side of the cephalofoil. And I am curious about why that is, and I've noticed it with scalloped hammerheads, but if you were to kind of like fold the hammerhead onto itself, it wouldn't match up perfectly. They're slightly askew. Right here, like it looks like the left, and some of this might be specimen preservation damage, but like, you know, it just looks like, just on glance, the length between, like, you know, the eyes and the interior part of the cephalofoil is just a little bit different on each side, so it's pretty interesting to see. And yes, vertebral count. Howard you're absolutely right that the difference between the two species is the number of vertebrae. So again, almost impossible, well, pretty much impossible to tell in the wild. So sorry about the audio. Let's see if I got my settings right, but we don't have any official confirmed footage of the Carolina hammerhead, but we do have a lot of footage of the scalloped hammerhead, so I figured tonight it would be kind of fun to look at scalloped hammerhead clips and to kind of get a sense of how the Carolina hammerhead might move. So we'll take a look at that first. We'll take a look at a broad species profile of the Carolina hammerhead, and then we'll dive into actual research of the species. So here is a scalloped hammerhead. So again, very similar to the Carolina hammerhead in shape and in movement. So a couple of the features are, again, you can see the indentation at the interior part of the cephalofoil. So there's that little, the classic scallop shape. And then you also have the rounded apex of the dorsal fin. Beautiful shark that has to constantly keep swimming. So this is one of the sharks that needs to keep swimming in order to breathe. Some sharks can sit on the seabed very comfortably and they don't have to move, but hammerheads are part of the group of sharks that are obligate ram ventilators, meaning that they have to swim continuously through the water column to get their fair share of their fair supply of oxygen. And unfortunately, that's part of what makes them very vulnerable as a shark group, because they don't last long if they're accidentally caught on fishing hooks. So that's actually really good footage by the Deep Green. So I'm just gonna like and subscribe. It's a really good clip, actually. This is a really beautiful shot, just of a scalloped hammerhead right in mid-water column, and it's really nice to kind of see just, you know, how beautiful the form is, and, you know, it's kind of amazing to see the proportion of the dorsal fin, the pectoral fins, the cephalofoil, how they all work together. Now let me slow that down for a better view. Let's just do half speed. So what's really cool is that for all sharks, there is kind of like a hydrodynamic equation in the proportion of their fins. So for hammerheads, because they have this bizarre large head that kind of acts like a lift or an additional wing for the shark doesn't need large pectoral fins. So if you compare this body plan to like a bull sharks are going to have longer pectoral fins because they don't have like this weird head shape. But hammerheads, since they do have kind of like this additional wing, if you will, in the form of their head, they don't need to waste energy growing larger pectoral fins. The pectoral fins can stay relatively small relative to the body size. So the pectoral fins are pretty small, and together the sum of the pectoral fins and the cephalofoil kind of add up to like the perfect shape for the shark's lift in the water. It's just the right amount of surface area for the shark to cruise very comfortably in the water. It's kind of like aircraft design, if you will, where an airplane's wings have to be a certain length in order to generate lift. If it's too big or too small or shaped too weirdly, it's not going to fly. And with all sharks, and especially the hammerheads, there's just this sweet spot, this like perfect formula between the head, the pectoral fins, the dorsal fins that makes it all work. So, and it's really cool. It's part of the sum of the head, the pectoral fins. That works with the how tall the first dorsal fin is. Like the sum of all those parts add up to like a perfectly hydrodynamic animal that is able to swim very comfortably in the water and very efficiently in the water too. So this is minimum drag and maximum lift for this shark. So it's part of what makes hammerheads really, really cool. Another thing that we have talked about before too is that part of a hammerhead's head, it actually helps with turning. So the head shape adds this extra dimension to being able to turn right on a dime as it's capturing really fast prey items. So if a hammerhead is really close to a fish and a fish is darting away, it is able to turn on a dime much more quickly than other kinds of sharks because it has that extra maneuverability thanks to the cephalofoil. So it's a really cool group of sharks overall. Oh, thank you. Audio okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. So, love the way it swims. Absolutely. Do you think Carolina hammerheads swim in schools along scalloped hammerheads? Great question. Very hard to answer. I agree. I think they do. I think it makes sense that they do. I feel like most hammerheads tend to be... I would say great hammerheads are solitary, but scalloped hammerheads are definitely gregarious. Smooth hammerheads, I think, vary. I do think smooth hammerheads are a little bit solitary as well. So that's a great question, Roy. Because this is so closely related to the scalloped hammerhead. It's by Jose R. Costello, so I'm gonna subscribe and like to that. Because the Carolina hammerhead is so closely related to the scalloped hammerhead, I think they probably do. Is my best educated guess. So, yeah. We'll take a look at a few more clips of the scalloped hammerhead before we dive into the Carolina hammerhead research. This is a really cool shot of a scalloped hammerhead being captured in the midnight zone, which is very unreal to see. So you can see on this gauge the depth is 1,009 meters. So that's just barely entering the midnight zone. The midnight zone cutoff is 1,000 meters, so there's no sunlight down here. And it's really cool to see a scalloped hammerhead cruising this seabed. That's an amazing shot, actually. Hammerheads are associated with shallow waters and warm tropical seas, so it's really cool to see that a hammerhead shark can, and especially a scalloped hammerhead, can be this far down, and that the temperature is so cold. Like down here, the ocean temperature is pretty stable and pretty chilly. So it's kind of amazing that a hammerhead shark can go to this depth. And you would think this would help it conservation-wise, because the bigger hammerheads like this one, they are able to escape fishing pressure, unlike the small hammerheads like the bonnethead shark or the small eye hammerhead. But unfortunately, the ability to go this far down still doesn't help the species because it still has to come close to shore for breeding, for nursery grounds, and unfortunately runs into a lot of fishing pressure nevertheless. So it's still really cool to see a large hammerhead shark going this far down. And again, it's kind of unbelievable because scalloped hammerheads, they typically like warm water, and at this depth it's just freezing. Well, not near freezing, so it's really really cold down to the midnight zone. So it's super cool to see a hammerhead shark functioning, and actually, being a very active swimmer and doing a really good job patrolling the seabed, looking for prey items. So it's a really amazing clip overall. Very hardy shark. Yep. Yeah, and it's actually it's really cool to see. I love that comment, by the way, because I think with the whole vulnerability to fishing pressure, sometimes it makes hammerheads seem a little bit more sensitive than other shark species, and it's really cool to see one do something as extreme as this, like going down this far into the midnight zone, and still be very active. That's actually amazing that this shark's able to do that. Let's see where this is. I'm just going to read the description. Deepwater observation scalloped hammerhead in the western Indian Ocean off Tanzania. Interesting. So, all right. Last little clip. Oh, I already subscribed to. This is another one from Jose R. Costello. Is a group of hammerhead sharks of scalloped hammerhead Sphyrna lewini. Again, you can see the rounded apices of the dorsal fin. Really great condition on these individuals, so really nice big girthy sharks. These are all females, and that actually brings up a good point. I forget off the top of my head, a lot of sharks do have sex segregated schools, so this looks like it's a school of all females. There's no claspers. I can't see any here. So I wonder if that applies to scalloped hammerheads, where this is a school of exclusively females. A lot of sharks do aggregate based on sex or size class. So I wonder if this is something that is a feature in scalloped hammerheads as well. And that's a great question for Carolina hammerheads. Do Carolina hammerheads school? Or have sexually segregated schools? They probably do, is my guess. So, but yeah, really beautiful shark and really great footage. I also love kind of a subtle feature, just how curved the fins are. The second dorsal and anal fin, it's like this really cool hook shape. So, a lot of fun features about these sharks. They're just very sleek and just, I don't know, they can move, these guys are just cruising, or these girls are just cruising right now. But if a hammerhead is hunting, it can move really, really fast. So, all right, so let's check out Sphyrna gilberti, so the brand new Carolina hammerhead. Oh, hey, Minjas, welcome back. So, oh yeah. So they definitely. So scalloped hammerhead school. I think it's different between the species. So scalloped hammerheads definitely school. I think smooth hammerheads can be solitary or can maybe form small schools, and I think great hammerheads typically like to be alone, which is kind of cool because they're so huge, and it's amazing how big they are actually. So I'm curious to learn more about the Carolina hammerhead and what it does, so here we go. It's kind of amazing. This was a species named in 2013, so this was my junior year in college. Was this my senior year? I was in college when this was discovered, which is kind of wild to think about. So, let's see. Okay. Sphyrna gilberti can be distinguished from congeners by having a head length greater than 20% of STL, cephalofoil median indentation. Yeah, so the features are extremely subtle. Live specimens are gray to brown dorsal coloration, fading to white ventrally. Yeah, the physical features are very, very subtle. Oh, this is kind of cool. Okay, so we won't be able to... we're not going to count all these vertebrae, but this is the thing that separates this species from the scalloped hammerhead. It's literally the number of vertebrae. And then also on a genetic level, researchers did some DNA analysis and compared Carolina hammerhead DNA with scalloped hammerhead DNA, and were able to determine that they're just different. So it's kind of amazing that this is the feature that separates the two species, and it's just externally it's really hard to tell apart. This is a great skeletal view of the cephalofoil of the Carolina hammerhead. It's kind of amazing that, how difficult they are to tell apart. But what's really cool is that you can see the chondrocranium and how unique it is with hammerheads, where you see like kind of like this arch for the interior end of the cephalofoil. You see the eye sockets here. The nasal capsule and the olfactory bulbs, these are very widely spaced. There's a huge surface area for the ampullae lorenzini, so the electrosensing organs in the shark. Here, this I believe is the brain case right here, so of the chondrocranium. So this like kind of rhombozoidal shape. You have the vertebral column here. You have the jaws, which again, unique to sharks, are disconnected from the cranium. Like it's kind of amazing to compare sharks to like other animals. Like humans, our jaws are connected to our skull, but sharks, the jaws are disconnected, and they're able to protrude them. Have a lot of maneuverability with them, which is really cool. But yeah, really great X-ray of the Carolina Hammerhead. So not a lot of notes from the sharkversions.com, so let's check out our good friend Fishbase. Let's see. The Latin name Sphyrna is related to, or is a Greek word for hammer. And then gilberti is in honor of ichthyologist Carter R. Gilbert from the Florida State Museum of Natural History. Oh, who first reported an anomalous specimen of Sphyrna lewinii that is likely the first recorded individual of the species. That's actually really cool. So apparently there was a weird looking scalloped hammerhead from 1967, and back then they didn't realize that, wait a minute, this is a different species. And then it wasn't until 2013 that they realized, they are different. So let's see. This species is distinguished from its congeners by having a head length greater than 20% of the stretched total length. The cephalofoil has a median indentation with internarial groove, pelvic fins with straight rear margins, 91 or fewer precaudal vertebrae. Greater than 20%. Okay. So it has a longer head than scalloped hammerheads. Let's see if we can compare that. That's going to be really tricky, but Sphyrna lewinii. I do want to see if we can get a visual on that. Yeah, here we go. While this is loading, I don't have any photos yet. I'm waiting to hopefully get some, but I was scuba diving in the National Aquarium in Baltimore last weekend. They actually allow divers to come in and do a guest diving program. So if I get photos, I promise I'll post them on the community page. But it was a really cool experience, and it was I did it because it was a way to kind of keep my scuba license going in the cold time of year. If you don't go to like Florida or the Bahamas or something during the off season, it's a really great other option. So it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing it, and they did have a shark in the tank. Carcharinus acronotus is the black-nosed shark. So a little black-nosed shark, kind of charging at me, and like not aggressively, just doing like a playful charge. So it was super cool. Had a lot of fun, and if I have any photos, I promise I'll share them. I'm waiting for the dive team to hopefully post some pictures if they got any. So, but yeah, it was a really, really cool program that they do. And I appreciate that aquariums do that. There's some aquariums that let people scuba dive in them if they have the open water license. So, all right. Let's see. So here is a scalloped hammerhead, Sphyrna lewinii. Here's a Carolina hammerhead, Sphyrna gilberti, and it's saying that the head length is longer proportionally. I guess you can kind of see that. It's really hard to tell. I wish I could get a better comparison. Let's see. Let's see if I can. I'm playing with my screen here, so let's see if I can do the tip of the snout to the tip of the upper caudal fin, this might be kind of fun. Let's see if we can do this. So we're looking for the Carolina Hammerhead having a longer head than a Scalloped Hammerhead. So here's the Scalloped Hammerhead. Okay, and then here's the Carolina Hammerhead. Let's see if we can actually see this. This is going to be very subtle. What? Okay, here we go. So right now I've kind of got the cephalofoil of the Carolina Hammerhead and the tail, you know, kind of from end to end on the screen. I'm close to that with the Scalloped Hammerhead. I guess you can kind of see it. This is a little hard to compare. That's actually really cool. Check this out. So this is really hard to compare because, you know, these are two different individuals. It's not just that they're different species, but, you know, they're different states of capture. But tell me if you guys can see any differences. You know, these are... actually, this is a really good challenge, actually. And I'm looking myself as well. The Scalloped Hammerhead is looking girthier, but again, that could be the individual and not the species. Let's see. I mean, I guess I can see the head length being longer, but it's really hard to tell. You know, that's really hard to tell, and part of that is just the angle of the species. This is also a really good visual of how hard these sharks are to tell apart. And this is part of the group of sharks where color doesn't really matter. You know, most sharks, you really can't rely, unless it's like a coral reef dwelling shark that has a very distinct pattern, you really can't use color to tell the species apart. Many sharks of the same species will be brown, gray, olive, like they'll just kind of be the same species. So, or sorry, the same color no matter what. It's scary how much the first dorsal fin lines up. Those look completely similar, so that's a little freaky. The space between the first and second dorsal fin is also completely similar. I see that the caudal fin looks angled differently, but I think that's specimen damage. The anal fin looks completely similar as well. Pelvic fin and anal fin positioning are still pretty similar. This is so challenging, actually. I really appreciate that there's a similar kind of layout between the two species, because this actually really helps illustrate how closely they resemble each other. So really, it really does look like it's just the head, and even that, I can't really quite see it. Well... maybe I do see a little bit of a difference. So, in the Scalloped Hammerhead, check this out. The lower jaw is kind of right beneath the eyeball here. In the Carolina Hammerhead, the lower jaw is a little bit behind the eyeball. That is the one difference I can see that may not be specimen damage, but it's a little hard to tell, because for the Carolina Hammerhead, the head may be angled a little bit away, but yeah, so... let's see. Catching up on comments. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So, okay. So, yes. Okay. Okay, this is awesome, guys. So, yeah, the cephalofoil is pushed forward just a little bit. Yeah, I definitely see him a bit further out. This is so cool. Howard, the cephalofoil, purified. I may think Carolina Hammerhead is because of the shape of the other one's eye cephalofoil almost merged with the rest of the head. This is great, guys. This is awesome. On the darker specimen, it seems more forward-facing. I pulled out my Sharks of the World. That is awesome. The base of the darker caudal fin is wider. Let's see. This is great, guys. I really, really love this feedback. This is awesome. Maybe. That's a good call. Oh, sorry. You know what? You might be right, Howard. That's actually a really good call. The lower caudal fin base of the Scalloped Hammerhead might be a little bit wider than the Carolina Hammerhead. Part of that may be specimen damage, but that's a really good call. I really appreciate everybody's closing in on the head. That's actually really cool, because that's also the official note as well. I wonder if there is, for comparison, I wonder if I can get, and this might be really helpful, a view of the Scalloped Hammerhead's. Perfect, that's what I want. That's exactly what I want. Okay, so here's the Scalloped Hammerhead. And then here's the Carolina Hammerhead. Let's see if we can do this. Alright. This is going to be great, actually. If I could do this. Okay. Oh, darn it. Come on. No. I hate, no. Give me back. Okay. Alright. While I'm setting this up, thank you guys. Yeah, no, Baltimore Aquarium's awesome. It's been a while since I've been, but I really, really appreciate it. And I forgot how huge it is. It's enormous. So, I was in the Atlantic Coral Reef exhibit, so they had black-nose shark. They had 2 green moray eels, and a huge tarpon, like a 6-foot tarpon. So it was really cool. Beautiful reef exhibit. And just a fun way to kind of keep the license current. So, I think, like, part of me, I will say part of me understands that those species or those individuals are, captive. So, you know, they're not going to behave the same way as wild animals will behave, but it still was really cool. I really, really appreciate that experience. So, alright. Oh, I keep doing this. Here we go. Let's try it one more time. So, I'm just going to look at my screen. I guess that'll be good enough. So, this is the Carolina Hammerhead, this is the Scalloped Hammerhead. Let's see what we can see. Okay, I do see a little bit of a difference. So look at this. The Carolina Hammerhead, it looks like the cephalofoil, the anterior part, or the posterior part of it, is a little bit bigger than in the Scalloped Hammerhead. They do, the head shapes do look kind of different. Now part of it could also be stage of life. I really appreciate that we're all doing this, by the way, because this is a really great example of kind of like I don't want to say the frustration of, not the frustration of shark science, but kind of like, you know, just how important nuance is, like how important the subtlety. There you go, the subtlety of shark science, where it's like, or shark identification, where it could get really, really subtle. And sharks are because sharks are so big compared to a lot of other animals, they're comparatively easier to figure out the subtleties between them. Something like minnows, like you have to be like the Jedi Master of fish to tell minnows apart. As silly as that sounds, minnows are the most, or some of the most difficult. Like any like small, closely related fish are just extremely difficult to tell apart. So let's see. It's hard to tell too, but see if we can see differences in the patches of Ampullae lorenzini. It's a little hard to tell. I mean, they look so similar. And yet, this is kind of interesting. The Scalloped Hammerhead, this looks a little bit more squared off on the sides of the head, whereas the Carolina Hammerhead looks a little bit rounded and longer, and it has like these kind of posterior lobes a little bit. Where Scalloped Hammerhead has it, but maybe not as distinctly. So, do you guys see differences? The nostrils seem a bit odd. Life stage is a good point. Could be damaged mouth seems to reach further into cephalofoil, or cephalofoil extends more. Oh, interesting. Let's see. Yeah, actually, let's see. So, Scalloped Hammerhead, you have, let's see, the interior part of the mouth is level with the midpoint of the eye. The posterior part of the mouth is kind of like hitting, not quite the edge of the cephalofoil, but kind of close. And then it's kind of, the sides of the mouth are hitting the center a little bit. Let's compare that with this Carolina Hammerhead. So the interior part of the mouth is also, well, okay. The interior part of the mouth is a little bit different, where it's kind of like on this left side, it's midpoint with the eye. On the right side, it's a little bit ahead of the eye. Corners of the mouth seem a little bit slightly wider, but still roughly hitting the same point. The mouth is also, well, okay, yeah, the head shapes do look a bit different. This is really cool. You guys are awesome. It's cool, kind of starting to tell apart the subtleties and the features. So it's cool to know that it's not just the vertebral count, but there's something about the head of this species. The body is virtually identical, but the head of the two hammerhead species, there's something a little bit subtly off between them. So that's actually really cool to drill down on. So, all right, thanks guys. That's like I think we're all like a degree of shark like we're progressing in shark expertise, all of us on the stream. So this is super cool, guys. So, however, the ends of the cephalofoil in the Carolina specimen appear more bulbous and slope, giving the eye socket an enhanced teardrop shape. Ooh, let me check that out again. That's really cool. That's a cool observation. Man, you guys are awesome. Like as far as, yeah, because it's like, yeah, because it looks like the sides of the head for the Scalloped Hammerhead, they seem more like straight, you know, they seem a little bit more like squared off. Whereas in the Carolina Hammerhead, it definitely seems to have more of a curve, you know, so that's actually, and like, I like that teardrop shape comment. That's really cool, guys. So, awesome. Let's see what else that we have. No other notes from FishBase, so I think it might be good to dive in to something a little unusual. This is an article kind of summing up the research behind the Carolina Hammerhead, the discovery of the Carolina Hammerhead. So I think it might be good to dive into this first, and then we'll go into the research from there. So here we go. Again, I think this is the first time we've ever really done like or one of the rare times we've ever done like an article, like a science article. But I think it would be worth it. So here we go. The Carolina Hammerhead, a new species of shark. Love this. Discovering a new species is, among biologists, akin to hitting a grand slam, and University of South Carolina ichthyologist Joe Quattro led a team that recently cleared the bases. In the journal Zootaxa, they described a rare shark, the Carolina Hammerhead, that had long eluded discovery because it is outwardly indistinguishable from the common Scalloped Hammerhead. Though, through its rarity, the new species, Sphyrna gilberti, underscores the fragility of shark diversity in the face of relentless human predation. Let's see. I won't read all of it, I'm just kind of skim through this. Oh, that's actually kind of cool. So, the author of the species, this is Joe Quattro, has a wide range of interests that include conservation, genetic diversity, and taxonomy. A driving force in his scientific curiosity is a desire to better understand evolution. As it turns out, South Carolina's four major river basins, the Petey, the Santee, the Edisto, and the Savannah, are a source of particularly rich ore for mining insight into evolutionary history. That's kind of cool. Kind of random comment, but New Jersey and Maryland in particular had huge glacial influences. And that's especially, well, actually it's true for both places, because Maryland, the Chesapeake Bay, was formed by glaciers. The areas where rivers now flow were covered with glaciers until 10,000 to 15,000 years ago, and as the glaciers receded, the taxa followed them upstream. It's really cool. In contrast, rivers south of Virginia were not covered with glaciers. In other words, these rivers have been around for quite some time. That's actually really cool. I didn't know that. And that makes total sense. It's one of those dumb things where it's like, it makes total sense, but I never knew that. Like, the Chesapeake Bay, the Delaware Bay, Raritan Bay, these were all glacially carved river valleys that were flooded eventually. But it's actually really cool to see that south of that, there are much older rivers that had, longer times of establishing, estuaries or just strongholds for marine life. That's actually really cool. So, the Petey and the Santee are two of the largest river systems on the East Coast, and we just got curious, how distinct are these rivers from one another? Beginning with the pygmy sunfish, Quattro and colleagues examined the genetic makeup of fish species within ancient freshwater drainage systems. They found the banded pygmy sunfish in all of South Carolina rivers. In fact, this widespread species is found in nearly all river systems of the U.S. southern and Gulf Coast, starting from the plains of North Carolina, Florida, all the way to Mississippi. So, it looks like this started with trying to figure out the evolutionary links between other fishes. The fact that the rare and a common species are located together in an ancient river system is important information in the ongoing struggle to clearly define evolutionary history. In the past, scientists drew taxonomic charts almost solely on the basis of physical structure, morphology, and available fossils. The genetic data revolution of recent decades is helping to redefine biology in a much more precise manner, but the process is still in the early going. That's a beautiful summary of kind of like what we've been talking about on the stream, and I think just the discussion in general, where genetics is revealing a lot, and I feel like the Carolina Hammerhead is like the flagship species of that. So the Pacific spiny dogfish is also an example where it used to be considered one species with the spiny dogfish or pike dogfish, and then they realized, oh no, these are two different species. Let's see. Quattro has been doing his part by slowly moving down the river systems to the ocean, collecting genetic data the whole way down. This is really cool. Closer to sea, he has looked at short-nosed sturgeon, which spend most of their time in the estuary, but do venture up to river spawn, and further downriver still, he has looked at shark pups. South Carolina is a well-known pupping ground for several species of sharks, including the hammerhead. The female hammerhead, and I'm assuming they're referring to the scalloped hammerhead, because in South Carolina, you've got a lot of them, actually. You definitely have the scalloped, the great, the smooth, and the bonnethead. You definitely have those four. Now you have the fifth species, which is the Carolina hammerhead. So, but I'm assuming in this article they're referring to the scalloped hammerhead. So, and I feel like it's a common misconception. A lot of people, and I will say probably even a lot of nature specials, they will talk about hammerhead sharks like they're one species, when in fact, I mean, they're so diverse. There's quite a few of them. So, the female hammerhead will birth her young at the oceanside fringes of the estuary. The pups remain there for a year or so, growing before moving out to the ocean to complete their life cycle. In the process of looking at hammerheads, Quattro, his student William Driggers III, and their colleagues quickly uncovered an anomaly. The scalloped hammerheads, Sphyrna that they were collecting had two different genetic signatures in both the mitochondrial and nuclear genomes. Searching the literature, they found that Carter Gilbert, the renowned curator of the Florida Museum of Natural History from 1961 to 1998, had described an anomalous scalloped hammerhead in 1967 that had 10 fewer vertebrae than Sphyrna. It had been caught near Charleston, and because the sample was in the National Museum of Natural History, the team was able to examine it morphologically and suggest that it constituted a cryptic species, that is, one that is physically nearly indistinguishable from the more common species. This is really cool. After publishing the preliminary genetic evidence for the new cryptic species in the Journal of Marine Biology in 2006, Quattro and colleagues followed up by making thorough measurements of 54 cryptic individuals and 24 Sphyrna, so scalloped hammerheads, to fully describe in zootaxa the new species Sphyrna gilberti in name of Gilbert's honor. The difference in vertebrae, 10 fewer than this cryptic species, is the defining morphological difference. So, really cool. Again, really scary how subtle that is, but still really, really cool. It's scary from a conservation perspective, where it's like, how do you explain to fishermen, I mean, the scalloped hammerhead's already critically endangered, so I guess, really, the solution is just don't fish for hammerheads in general. Please leave them alone. But it's really cool, though. Apart from the satisfaction of discovery, Quattro has established locations and genetic signatures for a number of closely related yet distinct species in South Carolina's rivers, estuaries, and coastal waters. The results will go a long way in furthering efforts to accurately define taxonomy and evolutionary history for aquatic life. His team's work also demonstrates the rarity of new species. Outside of South Carolina, we've only seen 5 tissue samples of the cryptic species, and that's out of 3 of 400 specimens. Wow. Shark populations have greatly diminished over the past few decades. The biomass of scalloped hammerheads off the coast of the eastern U.S. is less than 10% of what it was historically. That's really horrible. Here we're showing that the scalloped hammerheads are actually two things. Since the cryptic species is much rarer than the Lewini, God only knows what population levels have dropped to. Well, so that's a really good article summarizing, how the species was discovered, and also highlighting how precarious this is, where we know that the scalloped hammerhead is critically endangered, and if this species is rare within our original understanding of scalloped hammerhead, this actually might be an extremely endangered species. So let's check out IUCN Red List to look at its current conservation status and see what's going on with it. So, oh hey, Mufasa Lions. Hey, welcome to the stream. Is this Carolina representative a shark of similar size to scalloped, and is the scalloped a representative of the western North Atlantic? So that's a great question. So yes, so both species are in the western North Atlantic. Both species are almost identical in size and in shape. And what we're finding out is, apart from the vertebral count, the head shapes are a little bit different. The head length is different. The Carolina hammerhead is a slightly longer head than the scalloped hammerhead, but it's so hard to tell them apart. But yeah, welcome to the stream. We have a really fun community of shark lovers, and just any questions you have, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Learning hammerheads range from the bonnethead to the winghead blew my mind in high school. Oh yeah, that's so cool, Minjas. Yes, especially the winghead shark. I didn't realize that was like a thing. But that's a species in Australia that is so radically different. Sphyrna is the genus, but it's so radically different from the other hammerheads. And I love like the subtle hammerhead species too. There's like the mallet head shark, the scalloped bonnet head. A lot of them are in South America, and the golden hammerhead, also known as the small eye hammerhead. It's a really beautiful and diverse group. So, let's see. So Carolina Hammerhead Sphyrna gilberti. Currently in the IUCN Red List, it's data deficient, so this is like a rare species. Let's see. Let's check out the assessment information detail. Here we go. The Carolina Hammerhead Sphyrna gilberti is a small, poorly known coastal neritic and possibly semi-oceanic pelagic shark known from the northwest Atlantic. This is a cryptic species that can only be morphologically distinguished from the scalloped hammerhead, Sphyrna lewini, by precaudal vertebral counts, and there's evidence of a cryptic lineage of hammerhead sharks suggesting it may also occur in Panama and Brazil in the western, central, and southwest Atlantic Oceans, respectively. So that is a major development that I never heard of before. That's really cool, and again, also a little scary. This is a species hiding in plain sight. This is so freaky, actually. The full distribution range and the depth range of the species is unknown. So this is, for future shark scientists, this is a great one to study. The Carolina hammerhead is one that really, really actually needs a lot of focus because it's almost indistinguishable from scalloped hammerhead, and the scalloped hammerhead, again, is critically endangered. So this would be a really good one. For any future shark scientist, anyone who wants to do a thesis on sharks, Carolina hammerhead would be a fantastic choice. So, the full distribution range and the depth range of the species is unknown. The species is likely captured in long lines, gill nets, trammel nets, and trawls, and retained for meat and fins. It may benefit from regulations limiting use of gill nets in inshore waters of South Carolina. Given the depth is unknown and geographic range is not certain, it is difficult to ascertain the level of overall interactions with regional fisheries. Since it is unknown if fishing is causing a population reduction, there is currently inadequate information available to assess the species beyond data deficient. And that makes sense, that we just don't know enough about it. I unfortunately think this is probably somewhere here in the endangered or critically... It's probably critically endangered, and I'll pull up the other hammerheads as comparison. So let's check it out. Sphyrna. Imposter Among Us. Love that. Oh my gosh. So here we go. So here's the current conservation status. of the hammerhead. So here's a Scalloped Hammerhead, which is, you know, almost indistinguishable from the Carolina Hammerhead. And I would say it's an informed opinion to think that the Carolina Hammerhead is critically endangered, because if it's so morphologically similar to the Scalloped Hammerhead, it's probably occupying a very similar niche to the Scalloped Hammerhead. It's probably occupying very similar habits, similar prey items, using similar habitat. So I think an informed opinion would be it's probably a critically endangered species, unfortunately, especially since it's so rare within studied hammerheads. Like, in the 400 hammerheads they sampled, only 3 of them were Carolina hammerheads. So you can use that as kind of like a model, or like a sample size of what might be happening in the greater population as a whole. The Carolina hammerhead kind of might be like the vaquita, you know, where it's just like an extremely rare animal. So, unfortunately. So, I would say an informed guess would be it's critically endangered. But here is Scalloped Hammerhead, Sphyrna. The bonnethead, unfortunately, is endangered. The great hammerhead, Sphyrna is critically endangered as well. The smooth hammerhead is vulnerable. The scoop head shark is critically endangered. The small eye hammerhead is critically endangered, and the scalloped bonnethead is critically endangered. So hammerheads as a whole, they really are not doing well, and when you kind of see all of them compared to each other and see how poorly that they're doing globally, you know, it's again an informed decision or a formed opinion that the Carolina hammerhead's probably not doing well either. It's interesting that the smooth hammerhead is vulnerable, and I'm trying to remember why. I know we talked about the species on the stream before. I'm trying to remember. Actually, let's just check it out. Why is it vulnerable? Why is this one doing better than the others? Let's see. Because I know smooth hammerheads can go further. Like, they occupy areas that other hammerheads don't. They have a cold tolerance that other hammerheads don't. So let's see. Population growth rates are the fastest known for Project Sharks, fast as the hammerhead species. Okay, so the smooth hammerheads reproduce more quickly than the others. Management measures are showing slow recovery. Lower level artisanal fishery threats to species compared to scalloped and great hammerheads due to its genuine more temperate distribution. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. So it looks like the smooth hammerhead is benefiting from being able to kind of push its range further away from tropical areas. So because it can enter temperate water, it doesn't really run into as much pressure as the other species. And then also it reproduces a little bit more quickly than the other species. So interesting. Okay, so it's interesting to see that, you know, habits can have such an impact. Where the smooth hammerhead is doing better than the others, so it's really interesting to see that. But like, catch up on the comments. So, oh, cool. Mufasa, Trophic ecology, Carolina Sphyrna, gilberti, and Scalloped Hammerheads in southeastern USA. This is an updated article from 2024 that I think is worth a read. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Let me see if I have that actually. Age and growth, relative abundance, first record in Campeche, project placement, molecular dating. Oh, here we go. This is it. Awesome. Yeah, let's check this out. Here we go. Also, Mufasa, if you don't mind me asking, you can see on the kind of like the bottom bar, we have the American flag, the Canadian flag, and the Indonesian flag. If you feel comfortable, please let us know what country you're hailing from. You know, we have so far we have Americans, Canadians, and Indonesians on our stream. So only if you feel comfortable. But I always think it's really cool. And if you're from you know, an additional country, love to add the flag to our screen. So, but here we go. This is a great suggestion. And thank you for sharing this. Trophic ecology at Carolina Sphyrna gilberti and Scalloped Sphyrna hammerheads in the southeastern USA. So this is by Ashley S. Galloway, Katie Lyons, David S. Portnoy, Amanda M. Barker, Douglas H. Adams, James Gelsleichter, Eric A. Ryer, and Brian S. Fraser. So here we go. Great suggestion. Also, the music is being really goofy. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and just fast forward. I don't know what's going on. This is a little loud. Carolina Hammerheads, Sphyrna gilberti, and Scalloped Hammerhead, Sphyrna lewinii, are cryptic species with an overlapping distribution and young of the year, YOY, use similar coastal and estuary nursery areas along the U.S. southeast coast. The diet of Scalloped Hammerheads has been widely studied throughout their global distribution. However, little is known about their diet in the western North Atlantic Ocean. Carolina Hammerheads have only been recently described, and as such, their trophic ecology is largely unstudied. Stomach content analysis of genetically identified young-of-year Carolina and Scalloped Hammerheads reveal both species to be generalist feeders with diverse diets and no apparent resource partitioning between them. So that's actually really interesting, and I wonder if that means they compete. You know, if they don't specialize, do they compete for the same resources? By contrast, multi-tissue muscle and plasma stable isotope analyses showed significant interspecific differences in signatures, particularly in muscle delta carbon values for the youngest hammerheads. Due to slow tissue turnover rates, young-a-year muscle signatures were assumed to reflect maternal isotopic signatures, suggesting habitat or resource partitioning between... Oh, okay, never mind. Suggesting habitat or resource partitioning between mature female Carolina and Scalloped Hammerheads. In particular, the data are consistent with mature Carolina hammerheads inhabiting more offshore waters or consuming a higher proportion of pelagic prey relative to Scalloped Hammerheads. So I was wrong. That's actually really cool. So Scalloped Hammerheads, it sounds like they are sticking closer to the coast and hunting closer, or hunting prey items that are closer inshore. And the Carolina Hammerheads are consuming prey that are a little bit more offshore. That's so cool. And actually, I just realized something. Do I have my picture? So I saw a Scalloped Hammerhead in 2022. And I'm actually wondering if that was... It's probably a Scalloped Hammerhead still, but it was offshore. It was over Norfolk Canyon. I'm actually wondering if that's a Carolina Hammerhead now, which would be insane. That'd be so cool if it was, but I can't tell. Man. Let me see if I have the picture. I don't want to, share too many things, but, do I have that picture? Scalloped Hammerhead. There we go. Aha, I'm glad I have that. So here's a hammerhead I saw. This is my photograph of a Scalloped Hammerhead from offshore Norfolk Canyon. I know I've shared this before in the stream. Loved this experience. This was a pelagic tour by Rudy Tours in Virginia Beach. And, I mean, because this was in July, and when you get closer to the shelf, you're getting closer to the Gulf Stream. So, I still think this is a Scalloped Hammerhead, and probability-wise, it probably is a Scalloped Hammerhead, but that would be so cool if it's a Carolina Hammerhead. That would be insane if it is. So, oh my gosh. Either way, so happy to have seen this. If anyone is in the Virginia Beach area or is visiting, that tour group is awesome, and it's kind of unbelievable, how much of a deal it is. It's $200 to go offshore for 12 hours to be with sharks and whales and dolphins. That's a deal. So I highly recommend them. Rudy Tours is awesome. And yeah, this came from that. So, oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm freaking out that if Carolina Hammerheads inhabit more offshore areas, that'd be so cool. I still think I probably saw a Scalloped Hammerhead. Oh, cool. That's really cool. So hey, Mufasa, welcome back, or welcome, fellow American. That would be dope, or Roy. Just thought of it being Carolina is exciting. It's got a brownish color. What are the counter shading colors of Scalloped Hammerhead again? So it can vary. I think it's typically gray, but yeah, Howard's right. Brown, tan, or gray. So again, a lot of these kinds of sharks that do occupy like the coast, they like especially in estuaries, they can vary in color. Bull shark is a classic example where I know bull sharks that when they're more offshore, or not offshore, but when they're more like in the actual full seawater, they can have that beautiful gray sheen to them. But like bull sharks that enter the bay, they accumulate kind of like a dark color. Like they have this like dark like brown color, and I feel like the like a lot of sharks like that, like the coastal sharks, unless it's something distinct like a lemon shark. A lot of the coastal sharks will just kind of vary. They'll be on the spectrum of gray and brown. So color is hard to use as an identifier. The one that I saw in this photograph, in life, it was like a beautiful bronzy color. And I was using a GoPro to photograph it, so it's not going to capture really like exactly the color of the species, because in this photograph it's kind of more of like a gray with a little bit of a hint of brown. But seeing it in life, it was more bronzy. And bronze is the right word, like that shimmering, beautiful, like bronze color. Just love this shark. So, yeah, so I think probably this is a scalloped hammerhead. I got really excited, but like this is probably a scalloped hammerhead because the Carolina hammerhead has been found in the Carolinian ecoregion, which is distinct from the Virginia marine ecoregion because of the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream is close to shore in the Carolinas. It's further off from shore in Virginia, or the Virginia marine ecoregion. So probability-wise, this is probably a scalloped hammerhead, but you know, it could be a Carolina, which would be really cool. But I think I'm going to stick with scalloped as far as like what this is. But that got me really excited, though, that there's just a small chance, you know, because he looks so similar. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm so excited. I love sharks. So, all right. So this is really cool that Carolina hammerheads might inhabit or hunt in more offshore areas, and then scalloped hammerheads might be more inshore. Young year muscle and plasma delta nitrogen values decrease drastically across the sampling season, reflecting a loss of the maternal signal as young of year hammerheads fed and grew rapidly in these productive nursery habitats. All right. So we won't read the whole thing. We'll just kind of skim through and just kind of shout out any interesting tidbits of information. This is really cool. Mufasa, thank you again for suggesting this. This is a really cool article. Let's see. Sympatric species may exhibit different resource use patterns to reduce competition, whether it be ontogenic changes, different habitat use or diet of juveniles and adults, temporal partitioning, or partitioning resources by individuals within a shared life stage of habitat. This is really cool. Carolina hammerhead is virtually externally distinguishable from the scalloped hammerhead. While the scalloped hammerhead has a circumglobal distribution inhabiting temperate and tropical coastal and semi-oceanic waters, the Carolina hammerhead has mostly been found in estuarine and nearshore waters off the southeastern USA, with a few individuals reported in Brazil. Despite extensive sampling, the Carolina hammerhead has not been detected in the Gulf of Mexico, and their full distribution in the Atlantic is unclear. This is very interesting. In the most recent U.S. stock assessment, Carolina hammerheads could not be assessed separately from scalloped hammerheads due to the former's data deficient status. With species combined, the Atlantic population was determined not to be overfished, with no overfishing occurring. Let's put a pin in that for a second. However, given their limited distribution, Carolina hammerheads may be more vulnerable to anthropogenic pressures than scalloped hammerheads. Furthermore, hybridization has been detected between the rare... So this makes it so much worse. Okay. Furthermore, hybridization has been detected between the rare Carolina and more common scalloped hammerhead, with most backcrosses involving scalloped hammerheads, suggesting that genetic swamping may be a concern. Finally, there's a lack of important biological information pertaining to the Carolina hammerhead's life history and ecology. The fact that the two species could be only differentiated retrospectively through genetic testing or through pre-caudal vertebrate counts, necessitating lethal sampling, represents a challenge for filling outstanding data gaps needed to assess and or manage the species independently of the scalloped hammerhead. Wow, okay, so there's a lot of information on that. So the big one, and I have heard this before, where it is interesting that in the United States, scalloped hammerheads are considered not to be overfished, but in IUCN, the IUCN, like the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, scalloped hammerheads are considered to be critically endangered. So let's take a look at the assessment one more time for scalloped hammerheads, just to see the justification. The scalloped hammerhead. This is saying the scalloped hammerhead has undergone steep declines in all oceans, with some signs of stabilization and possible recovery in response to management only in the Northwest Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico. Okay, so that's actually really great. So this lines up with what this is saying. So essentially, globally, the scalloped hammerhead is critically endangered, but in the Northwest Atlantic, which is the United States, and the Gulf of Mexico, also northern Gulf of Mexico is the United States, seems to be okay, which is awesome. I'm really happy that, management measures have helped this species, because it's such a sensitive species to fishing. So it's good to verify that it looks like scalloped hammerheads genuinely are maybe doing okay compared to other populations of scalloped hammerheads around the world. So they generally may be okay in the U.S. versus around the world. So there's that. The hybridization thing really threw me off, because that makes it so much harder. So there's the scalloped hammerhead, there's the Carolina hammerhead. They look almost identical to each other, and now we've got, hybrids of the two, which it's like, oh gosh, that's almost impossible to, how you probably should manage both of them with the same measure, really. I feel like it's like splitting hairs. From a management perspective, because part of management is you have to create regulations, and you have to those regulations have to be publicly applicable, and fishermen can tell apart different sharks fairly well. Most I would say lay fishermen kind of throw all sharks. I mean, okay, let me rephrase that. Fishermen with a license, and who actually pay attention to seasons, and actually pay attention to their state's local regulations, who are really on the ball with what they can and cannot catch. They should be able to tell the sharks apart fairly well. But a lot of people kind of put sharks in the bucket of sand shark, which is not a real species. And either way, I feel for these two hammerheads, I mean, you should probably manage them, I feel as one group, just to make it easier for people to, continue, and manage them in terms of maybe avoiding them, as far as capture, just to make it, kind of simple and clean for everybody. But I don't know. I just feel it's just almost impossible to tell them apart in the wild. So it's just you don't want to I feel it's splitting hairs trying to manage them as separate species. I feel they should probably be managed as one group potentially. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm curious to see what this article recommends at the end. So, let's see. Oh, wait until you see the map in the paper. Okay, I'm actually okay. Yeah, let's actually fast forward. Sorry, I just saw that comment. Oh, this is cool. Oh, this is freaky. Okay, check it out. All right. So this is super cool. So the green is a scalloped hammerhead. The red is the Carolina hammerhead. The blue is the hybrid. That's kind of insane. Look at this. Okay. So there was a hybrid captured... Dude, I was here a couple months ago, actually. A hybrid captured... No, I wasn't. Sorry, this is Cape Fear. Never mind. I got that confused for a second. So this is Cape Fear. This is Bald Head Island, actually. This is a really, really cool area where I saw that bonnethead shark. That bonnethead shark video I have swimming in the Cape Fear River. That's Bald Head Island, which is here. So that's actually really cool that a hybrid scalloped Carolina hammerhead was found in North Carolina. You've got the... Oh, man, this is freaky. Look like they're overlapping in the habitat so much. You've got, along the South Carolina coastline, a mix of the Scalloped Hammerhead in green and the Carolina Hammerhead in red, and then this hybrid in blue. It's kind of really cool to see the Carolina Hammerhead being in these South Carolina estuaries right here. Scalloped Hammerhead being more concentrated in these Georgia, Florida estuaries, but you still have Carolina Hammerhead presence, and then you have hybrid presence here. Oh man, look at this. You know, and then southern Florida estuaries have both species. This is wild. This is blowing my mind. Because again, I was in college when they first announced this was a new species of shark, and I didn't realize how much we've learned since then, and how much we're starting to cover and understand what the species is and what habitats it occupies. This is actually really cool to see too. So here's a scalloped hammerhead caught kind of offshore a little bit, kind of on the shelf area. That is so cool. Sample locations in western North Atlantic Ocean along the southeastern U.S. coast. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. Whew! That's amazing. Wow. And also really freaky. Again, I feel like you should probably manage it as one group. Oh, what's this? Oh, this is cool. Okay. So this is diet. Percent mean index of relative importance of prey categories in Bulls Bay, South Carolina, by A, species Carolina scalloped or hybrid hammerhead, and then B, month of capture of all hammerheads combined due to similar diet. So let's just see if there's a change in diet between the Carolina, the scalloped, and the hybrid, and this is actually really freaky. So in here, okay, yeah, they actually overlap so much. So the Carolina scalloped hammerhead seem to both like shrimp a lot, unidentified teleosts a lot, and cyanidae. So cyanidae are the drums, which are a really populous estuary group of estuary fishes. There's a bunch of species, like at least a dozen species of drums. And it looks like the hybrid hammerhead has more drums and more shrimp, but less unidentified teleost. And then crustaceans and mollusks don't make up a big part of their diet at all. In Granulidae, let's go up really quick. I don't remember what that is off the top of my head. Granulidae. So many fish. Anchovies. Okay, anchovies. So, this is actually really cool. So, seasonally, lots of unidentified teleosts, some anchovies in May. In June, the shrimp count goes up, the drum count goes up. In July, a heck of a lot more drums in the diet. And then in August, still a huge amount of drums, and then a nice amount of shrimp. But this is actually really cool. You can just see, I feel like this is just a reflection of seasonal distribution of prey items. As the seasons progress throughout the year, abundance between different prey items shifts. And that's actually, as far as hammerheads go, that's a really cool change to see. But as far as I feel like, telling apart the two different species, it's kind of hard to distinguish. I mean, based on this chart, it looks like the hybrid has a very different diet, but that the Carolina scalloped hammerhead, have really, really similar looking diets. So, but let me go back to the intro to make sure I didn't miss anything. Sorry, this is a great article. There's so much to unpack here. Let's see. Most biological information on Carolina hammerhead has been gathered during early life history. As is the case for many coastal shark species, both Carolina and scalloped hammerheads rely on estuarine and coastal habitats as nursery areas during their first years of life, making them easily accessible to researchers at these early life stages. By contrast, the adults of both species are more difficult and costly to study using traditional methods, making it challenging to characterize adult movement patterns and feeding habits. This is really cool. So they're using young of the year hammerheads to provide insights into species ecology on the nursery grounds as well as the potential for niche overlap between the two species. This is a really great study where it answering a very important question, like, do the Carolina Hammerhead and the Scalloped Hammerhead, like, as they're different species, are they competing for different resources? Are they competing for the same resources? Is there a difference in their diet? How do they coexist as different species? And how do they occupy an extremely similar niche, or are they distinct enough where they can both coexist and sustain healthy populations? It's a really, really cool study. Effective management requires understanding of the foraging and spatial dynamics of co-occurring species. While Carolina and Scalloped Hammerheads coexist across multiple nursery areas along the southeastern U.S. coast, the highest proportion of young in the year Carolina Hammerheads was found in Bulls Bay, South Carolina, an important nursery for both species. Growth studies on young hammerheads suggest that both species rely on these nursery habitats for abundant food resources to quickly replenish lost energy reserves and increase size. Okay, I think this is going to be talking about the methods, so I think we'll kind of jump into the discussion. Yeah, we'll jump into the discussion, but this is really cool, and simultaneously, this map is thrilling and alarming. It's thrilling in a sense, like, it's incredible how big of a presence Carolina Hammerheads have, and like just how apparent they are. Like they occupy a much larger habitat than I was originally expecting. Although again, it makes sense because this is all the same ecoregion. This is all the Carolinian Atlantic. So until you get to this point in Florida, and I feel like if the Carolina Hammerhead is found in Brazil, it probably, or possibly, has a range that extends beyond this area, maybe even across the Caribbean and tropical Atlantic waters. So it's really cool. So simultaneously thrilling to see how large of a distribution it has here, but it's also scary because it's just so intermingled with Scalloped Hammerheads. Like, how in the world do you manage these sharks, and how do you tell them apart? And it's just wild. Alright, so we'll look at the discussion. Oh. Okay. Okay. Oh, this is cool. And just for the sake of time, we'll go through too much. Okay, here we go. Sorry, discussion. Okay, so this is really cool. The study provides the first species-specific trophic ecology data on cryptic Carolina hammerheads and scalloped hammerheads from the western North Atlantic Ocean. The results are not consistent with the resource partitioning of the youngest hammerheads, as young of the year scalloped and Carolina hammerheads had similar generalist diets and shared nursery grounds. However, maternally influenced isotopic signatures between the species indicated that gestating females feed at different trophic levels and or occupy different habitats. So the mothers are a Carolina hammerhead mother and a scalloped hammerhead mother. They are in a different, they occupy different niches, but their pups are going to be sharing the same nursery ground, which is really cool. Let's see. Southeastern USA diets consist mostly of skynates, so these are drums, anchovies, shrimp, and squid. Stardrum is a particularly important species, so that's really cool. That's one I'm not as familiar with because I'm in the Chesapeake Bay area. So we do have them, but I feel like the Bay, it's kind of more like black drum, red drum, spots, and croakers. Those are really the big ones. Hammerheads in the southeastern USA appear to have ample access to food resources based on a low proportion of empty stomachs. When empty stomachs were found, they tended to be in the earliest USS. Those with open or partially healed umbilical scars, estimated to be less than 2 weeks old. Other studies have also observed empty stomachs in neonates, and attributed to a possible non-feeding period, inefficient hunting skills, or lack of prey abundance. That's actually really cute. I know I shouldn't say that, but like it's kind of cute that like the baby hammerheads are maybe not the best hunters. They're uncoordinated and like don't know how to do it yet. That's kind of funny. Although it's an opportunity to kind of say all sharks when they're born are fully capable of hunting. You know, and it's kind of cool to point that out when you think about other animals like. Birds, you know, baby birds have to be fed by their mothers. Mammals have to be nursed by their mothers. Sharks are some of it's kind of cool as a group of animals that sharks are born fully equipped to survive on their own. So whether sharks are born live or they hatch from egg cases, they're ready to go. So it's kind of cute to think about like, you know, inefficient hunting skills like baby hammerheads not quite knowing how to do it yet, but they are fully capable of hunting, and you know, in a short period of time, I mean, that instinct kicks in and they know what to do. So it's really cool. It's actually really impressive that sharks are, again, when they're born, they're just ready to go, and they're essentially fully formed as far as being capable of hunting, and that's different from a lot of other animals that we're used to. So. Let's see, hammerheads feed indiscriminately regardless of age. Across months, prey categories varied by importance. Opportunism is an effective strategy for sharks that exhibit generalist feeding behavior in habitats with ample sources of prey. Indiscriminate feeding may be a necessity for young hammerheads, and is seen to rapidly deplete maternally provided energy stores in the liver. Without sufficient prey resources, hammerheads would likely starve to death soon after birth or exhibit reduced growth and condition, increasing likelihood of predation. As such, food resource availability in nursery habitats likely plays an important role in hammerhead early life survivorship. And it's actually really cool. I feel like most sharks, I think you can argue, and I've said it before in the stream, are generalist. You know, they eat things smaller than themselves. It's a little bit less common for sharks to have more of a specialized prey diet, like Port Jackson sharks eating shellfish, you know, or basking sharks eating plankton. That's a little bit uncommon. A lot of sharks, you know, are generalists, and it's just really cool that they are like that. So. Okay, although overall prey categories were similar in hammerhead diet across the southeastern USA, prey species and dietary proportions differed latitudinally. Hammerhead sample from Bulls Bay, South Carolina, had at least 27 prey items identified to species compared to 17 from Georgia and Florida combined. That's interesting. This difference may be an artifact of the lower numbers of hammerhead sampled from Georgia and Florida, but it could also reflect differences in habitat quality, including prey availability. Bulls Bay is located within the Cape Romaine National Wildlife Refuge, and due to conservation efforts and limited surrounding development, is relatively pristine, supporting a wide variety of small fishes, crustaceans, and squid. Sampling in Bulls Bay mainly occurred along open coastline adjacent to an extensive network of tidal creeks and marsh habitat. By contrast, hammerheads sampled in Georgia and Florida were mostly collected from nearshore habitats that included open ocean and sand flats associated with beaches, Cape Canaveral, some with shallow shoals adjacent to deeper troughs, and marsh habitat along the intercoastal waterway. Interesting. Um, okay, so if anyone doesn't know, the Intercoastal Waterway is a route on the east coast of the U.S. That hugs very close to shore, and it's kind of like a boat traffic route. That connects. I think it goes from Florida to Maine, if I'm not mistaken. And actually, I wonder if it goes to Texas to Maine. I forget how long it is, but in the Chesapeake Bay, it's actually kind of cool. You go. The Intercoastal Waterway actually goes inside the Outer Banks, and you actually go through the city of Chesapeake and the city of Norfolk before you get into the bay. So it's kind of like a safe passage, like on the inside of the sounds and inside of estuaries, because like it's safer than being out in the open ocean where there's storms and stuff. So it's kind of a cool system. But anyway, through the Tolomado River, which is in the Intercoastal Waterway, though it's located within the Guana-Tolomado-Matanzas National Estuarine Research Reserve, increased boat traffic and dock construction within a reserve can impact benthic resources and habitat, which could result in a loss of suitable habitat for juveniles of important fish species and other potential prey items from young hammerheads, or for young hammerheads. Okay, I'll kind of skip forward because I want to kind of get to the hammerhead mothers, and let me check the comments too. Oh, this is cool. Okay, sorry, just Mufasa, from anecdotal discussions with Georgia locals, we think that shrimp trawling really reduced a lot of our hammerhead nurseries. I'm going to start that. Thank you for sharing. It's really interesting, and it's unfortunate too. Unfortunately, the records that would be helpful are not in written record. Very interesting. We've actually caught bull babies and on hook surveys that still had an umbilical attached partially. That's really cool. Oh my gosh. Mufasa, have you heard of the bull sharks that have pupped in Albemarle Sound? I think that was a couple years ago when they discovered that. But it's really cool, and actually a little freaky that bull shark pupping grounds are extending northward, and it's a really interesting like climate change study as well. So, oh, Minjas, sorry, I didn't realize you were going, but have a great class tomorrow, and thank you so much for joining tonight. It's really great to have you as always, and hope you have a great rest of your week. So, but we'll get back to this, but that's actually really cool about the bull sharks, the umbilical scars. That's really, really cool. Let's see. Niche partition between younger year Carolina and Scalloped Hammerheads was not detected. It could be attributed to the high prey productivity of Bulls Bay. Let's see. Resources in Bulls Bay are likely abundant enough to support multiple functionally similar species in the same area while limiting competition. Competition between hammerhead species may also be reduced through species-specific life history characteristics, which could lead to temporal resource partitioning. In Bulls Bay, Scalloped Hammerhead abundance peaks early in the summer, mid-July, compared to Carolina Hammerheads, which were most abundant a month later in August, resulting from purportedly offset partition windows between the species. That's really cool! Alright, so if I'm reading that correctly, the Scalloped Hammerheads give birth earlier, potentially, than the Carolina Hammerheads. So the Scalloped Hammerhead pups, get the first shot at eating small prey items in Bulls Bay, and then the Carolina Hammerhead pups move in and get the second shot. So that way, both groups of pups actually are able to consume their prey, the prey that they need, and they're not really stepping on each other's toes. They're not infringing on each other's space. They're able to, essentially utilize the same habitat and same resources, but just at different times of the year. That's really cool. Differences in arrival time to the nursery could lead to reduced competition if demand for shared resources is temporarily offset. Furthermore, Scalloped Hammerheads are born at larger sizes, so although the prey items may overlap, the two species may be feeding on prey of different sizes, which would reduce direct competition. Interspecific variation in diet can also be a potential method of partitioning. Though stomachs from both species often contain multiple prey taxa per stomach, Carolina Hammerhead stomachs were less diverse, and their delta carbon range was narrower than that of Scalloped Hammerheads. This is going to find that Carolina Hammerheads may target the same prey items more often. exhibit more specialist habits, which could reduce competition. Again, thank you again, Mufasa, for the study, because this is super cool. And again, it's blowing my mind how much we're actually starting to piece together about the Carolina Hammerhead. That's so much more than I was expecting. So that's awesome. So also, it's 10:30. So on the stream, we pick a shark around this time for next week. So we've covered a bunch of species already. We've covered about 102 species. If anybody has a suggestion for next week's stream, please leave a shark comment. A comment of which species you'd like to cover. And Mufasa, since you're new to the stream, if you'd like to suggest a shark for next week, especially like one that's a little bit rarer or uncommon, please leave a comment in the chat. We've covered a lot of the classics, like we recently did the great white, we've done basking sharks, we've done whale sharks, but any of the rare ones or the unusual ones, please feel free to leave a comment. And again, everybody's open to and welcome to suggest a shark for next week. Let me know what you guys like to cover. And just as some guidance, let's see, I don't have my copy of Sharks of the World, but there's a bunch of cat shark groups that we still have not covered. There's a couple other cryptic, like smoothhounds. We could cover smoothhounds, finback cat sharks, a lot of the dogfish or lantern sharks. I think we recently did a new angel shark, so we should probably avoid that group. It's been a while since we've done a sol shark. I would say anything from squaliforms. Squaliforms or carchariniforms would probably be a good bet, since we've done a lot of lambdiforms. So anything that's squaliforms or carchariniforms and maybe not lambdiforms is probably a good direction. Let's see. Though caution is needed to interpret stable isotopes of young and year hammerheads due to maternal influence and values, this phenomenon was leveraged to gain insights into species-specific maternal feeding ecology. Okay, there's a significant difference in delta carbon between the two hammerhead species, which suggests that maternal ecology differs. Okay, this is cool. Gradients in delta carbon values in the marine environment are related to the isotopic signatures of food web bases, and benthically linked inshore habitats are more enriched in carbon-13 relative to offshore phytoplankton-based food webs. Therefore, more negative values observed in younger year Carolina hammerheads may suggest that adult female Carolina hammerheads feed in more offshore environments than adult female scalloped hammerheads. Alternatively, differences in delta carbon 13 could indicate that adult females forage in the same areas but feed primarily on prey resources from different food webs, which have different carbon baselines. For example, benthic lazarbrinks versus pelagic squid. Okay, so Carolina hammerheads and Scalloped hammerheads, the mothers are suggested to be sharing a pelagic-based feeding habit. However, again, Carolina hammerheads, they're suggested to inhabit waters further offshore compared to Scalloped hammerhead females. No genetically confirmed adult female Carolina hammerheads and limited adult female Scalloped hammerheads have been sampled despite various survey efforts conducted along the U.S. southeast coast. That said, direct research will be necessary to confirm purported habitat differences. It's really cool. It's a very interesting lead. It'll be cool to sample more offshore environments to see if you can find Carolina hammerhead mothers there. That's really cool. Okay. Hybrids of the two species were found to be more closely resemble Carolina hammerhead young in years in isotropic signatures of slow turnover tissues, which mirror genetic information that nearly all hybrids had Carolina hammerhead mothers. That's interesting. Let me repeat that. Nearly all hybrids had Carolina hammerhead mothers. In fast turnover tissues, hybrids appeared similar to Carolina and Scalloped Hammerheads, indicating no difference in their feeding ecology, at least in Bull's Bay. Interesting. Ooh, did we do the big eye thresher? Oh, a fine-tooth shark. Let's see. I think we did the fine-tooth shark. These are both great suggestions. Let me double check that. So I'm really glad I made a playlist based on the orders, because it's a very on my channel. I have all of our streams organized by shark order. So let's see. I thought we did the fine-tooth recently. I'm just making sure, because that is a really cool shark, and I definitely agree with Mufasa. That is an unsung hero. We have fine-tooth sharks in Virginia. Really, really rare. Actually, extremely rare. Oh, yeah, there we go. Stream number 99. So, fine-tooth shark. Stream number. Yeah, so we did do that one. So that was really recent. But that's a great suggestion, because I definitely agree that one is an unsung hero. And it's a species that really should be getting more attention. The night shark is similar. Night shark would be a really cool one. But Roy also suggested the big eye thresher. Let's see. We've got basking, sand tiger, poor beagle, crocodile, thresher, goblin, big eye sand tiger, shortfin mako. Oh, we have not done that. All right, so let's do it. That one's freaky looking in a fun way. So let's do it. I think it's a great suggestion, Roy. Big eye thresher. I think it's Alopius superciliosus. Here we go. Superciliosus. Let me make sure I got that right before I put that in the chat. That one kind of used to freak me out. It's a very unusual face. It actually kind of looks like a possum a little bit, where the eyes can see on kind of almost through the top of the head. And I believe that's an adaptation which makes sense, because thresher sharks are so unique as far as being able to like whip their tail. And I think the big eye thresher probably has that adaptation to maximize visibility as they coordinate that unique movement of whipping their prey items with the tail. So yeah, it's Alopius superciliosus. So, all right. So yeah, thank you, Roy. That's a great suggestion. So we'll do the big eye thresher, Alopius superciliosus for next week. So great suggestion. And that one's going to be a lot of fun. We might get some really cool footage on that. So yeah, that's going to be awesome. So. Let's see. I'm just skimming through this. Okay, the diet of mature Carolina or Scalloped Hammerheads has not been described in the North Ocean. However, in other basins, adult female heads are known to mainly feed a variety of fishes, other elasmobrates, so sharks and rays, and pelagic cephalopods, squid. I'm trying to think. I guess. Yeah, that would be squid. That would definitely be squid. And I know, like, I feel like, kind of across nature specials, rays and squid are the big hammerhead things, to eat. Although I'm curious what other sharks that hammerheads might consume, but rays for sure, and squid. I feel like in shark pop culture, those are the big things that hammerheads like. I know in that pelagic tour, they did talk about that the hammerheads that they see are there for the squid, and they love the squid in the open ocean. So it is probable that mature individuals in the western North Atlantic have a similar diet, while stomach content analysis of younger year was dominated by fishes from lower trophic levels and invertebrates. Let's see. Excuse me. This is really cool. And the change in delta 13 carbon or lack thereof between USS 1 and USS 3 sharks may be confounded by the dynamics of estuarine waters where there are multiple primary producers. I just read that out loud because like it just as like kind of like a general view. Estuaries are so complex and such vital habitats for sharks in like across the Atlantic coastline of the United States. And I'm particularly like I'm refreshing a lot of like my Chesapeake Bay stuff. I got some for the holidays. I got some new books that I've been reading and really enjoying. Specifically, Life in the Chesapeake Bay by I think it's Lipson, which is fantastic. And then Fishes of the Chesapeake Bay at the Chesapeake Bay Adventure Guide. So I really just enjoy learning about estuaries and kind of like how they work. And I've been studying them for a long time, and even I forget how complex and how much nuances exist in the estuaries and how much they do produce, and how much of a boon they are to marine life. So they're really cool systems. This is interesting. Both Carolina scalloped hammerheads caught in late April and early May, that is the neonates, were much more enriched in... Oh gosh, I should know that. Is that... I'm not even going to say it. Is that sulfur? Is that sulfur? Sulfur. It is sulfur, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. I really should know that. It is sulfur. Okay, sorry. Then those caught in late summer, indicating that there's a change in resource use between the youngest and oldest young year in the study. Delta 34 sulfur, and I apologize if I'm not reading that correctly, but sulfur, this kind of sulfur has the potential to identify foraging habitats and foraging strategies along a benthic topologic gradient, particularly in estuaries. Okay. Conclusions. Yep. And this study is amazing. I won't be able to get through all of it tonight on a single stream, but it is a really amazing study, and it's kind of I really appreciate how much we've learned from it. And again, Mufasa, thank you for suggesting it because it's just awesome. But this is really cool. So in summary, young of the year hammerhead sharks share a similar generalist diet across the southeastern USA with no clear difference in dietary niche. Despite young year scalloped hammerheads being 50 millimeters on average longer than Carolina hammerheads, the two species have a large dietary overlap regardless of metric, that is stomach contents or plasma stable isotopes. However, the stable isotope values for young of year muscle, a tissue that integrates information over a longer timescale, indicate that adult female hammerheads may use different prey resources or different habitats. These differences are erased as hammerheads grow and incorporate local signatures into their tissues. Bulls Bay and other nurseries along the southeast U.S. coast are productive areas that provide young hammerheads with the necessary resources to survive their first months of life, which highlights the importance of establishing and maintaining essential fish habitat along the coast. Both hammerhead species exhibit a diverse diet and regularly had full stomachs, stressing the importance of these areas across the southeastern Atlantic coast as nursery grounds for young hammerheads. Many limitations exist for studying mature Carolina and scalloped hammerheads off the southeastern USA, including their indistinguishable external morphology, costliness of sampling, and relative scarcity. Considering these constraints, muscle isotope values from neonatal hammerheads provide valuable insight into adult feeding ecology, presenting evidence that females of these species likely feed in different habitats and or at different trophic levels. By extension, adult movements may also differ, which could present conservation challenges for species that are managed as a single homogeneous group. So, okay, this goes against what I was saying earlier. I was saying, like, oh, they should be managed as one thing, but I do want to point out that this is contradicting that, and fairly so. Adult movements may also differ, which could present conservation challenges for species that are managed as a single homogeneous group. Furthermore, nearly unidirectional hybridization, that is, female Carolina hammerheads mate with male scalloped hammerheads, and F1 hybrids are almost always backcrossed into scalloped hammerheads, could eventually lead to the loss of the Carolina hammerhead. Interesting. Taken together, the seemingly more limited distribution of Carolina hammerheads compared to scalloped hammerheads and the threat of hybridization could make the species more susceptible to overfishing and more sensitive to degradation of essential fisheries habitat. So that's wild that it's not only that we just recently discovered Carolina hammerheads and that the scalloped hammerheads globally are critically endangered, but scalloped hammerheads themselves are mating with Carolina hammerheads and essentially kind of like pulling that genetic complex back into Sphyrna lewinii. It's so interesting, and it's just like I wonder if the Carolina hammerheads, it's kind of like it potentially may be the vaquita of sharks. It just, as far as like it's already so rare, and it's so cool. But it's just like there's so much that's like, oh, you know, it's like, I guess seeing the shark and verifying that you've met one of these sharks in the wild is just like you win the lottery as far as like sharks go. It's kind of incredible how rare this is and how like increasingly rare it could be. So. Preservation of intact, functional nurseries may play an outsized role in the conservation of Carolina hammerhead, which appears to rely on these resources heavily during its early life history. A single essential fisheries habitat boundary for nursery areas, particularly for Bull's Bay, is suitable for both hammerhead species considering the large resource overlap between neonates. Okay. The largest data gaps from the southeastern USA for either species pertain to adult biology, and management recommendations would benefit greatly from filling these gaps by opportunistically collecting, that is through fishery-independent surveys or commercial fisheries, more tissue samples from mature hammerheads for genetic identification and or SIA to further investigate adult resource use. Yeah. So again, this is a great species of study, honestly. The Carolina hammerhead, and focusing on it as like your thesis or your research, it's an excellent species of study because there's so much we still need to learn about it. It's so cool. Knowledge of the trophic ecology of sympatric and cryptic hammerheads across their life stages and habitats will allow for appropriate conservation and management decisions and to add the breadth of information required for potential ecosystem-based fisheries management. All right. So again, this was Trophic Ecology of Carolina Sphyrna gilberti and Scalloped Sphyrna lewinii hammerheads in the southeastern USA. So Mufasa, thank you so much. Oh, and I just saw your comment. Have a good night as well. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for suggesting this article. It's super cool. Hammerheads seem designed to sniff out race. Love that comment, Howard. And Howard, you made a really, really, man, you guys are awesome. Roy, I love this comment. The true golden hammerhead. Howard, I wonder how many species have come and gone like that. That is an excellent comment, and really scary too. Yeah, Mufasa came in clutch with a recent study. Absolutely, that was fantastic. But yeah, Howard, that's a really good comment and really freaky. Where how many shark species have been hiding in plain sight and disappeared? And how many shark species have maybe existed and then hybridized to the point of not existing anymore? And what's interesting is, as far as we know, we have not driven a shark to extinction. The closest would be the Pondicherry shark or the lost shark, which we've covered a little bit. I think we did this whole stream on a lost shark, but as far as we know, there's still no shark that's declared extinct. Let's double check IUCN Red List to make sure. I'm pretty sure everything is still honky dory, but let's check it out. Let's do a filtered view. Advanced search. Okay, so we want sharks are kind of animal. They're kind of chordate. They are part of the class Chondrichthyes. So we want carchariniforms, squaliforms, orlectolobiforms, What happened? Go back. Sorry. Oryctolobiforms, landiforms, squatiniforms, sextantiforms, heterodontiforms, pristiforiforms. Okay, let's make sure. Those are chimeras, those are torpedo rays, those are sawfish, those are two kinds of rays. Radriforms is like, I think, bottom-dwelling rays. Myliobatiforms are like skates or manta rays. I forget what they are, but those are rays. Alright, so we got all these sharks. None of them are extinct. Right now, IUCN Red List is saying 0 are extinct, 0 are extinct in the wild, 0 are regionally extinct. We just have a lot that are critically endangered. So here we go. Critically endangered sharks. We've got some angel sharks, the Scalloped Hammerhead, the Great Hammerhead, Oceanic Whitetip, Sand Tiger, Taupe, more angel sharks, smooth hounds, daggernose, Ganges shark, the lost shark, which is still considered to be critically endangered, the Pondicherry shark, also critically endangered, Pacific smalltail shark. I've never heard of this. Carcharodontis credale. That'd be an interesting one to do in the future. Okay, so point being, so far we don't have any extinct sharks yet, and I think because we have not yet driven a shark to extinction, I kind of feel like if there's a shark that has hybridized itself to extinction, I don't know, it's tricky. It's tricky to make that call where, I mean, if it's a currently critically endangered shark, like a let's call it a super lost shark that has hybridized with a lost shark into extinction, you know, it's a good question. It's a really good point, Howard. How many shark species have we lost from hybridization? My gut is telling me probably, I hope not many, but I don't know. Another group that would be interesting to think about is the oceanic whitetip. Like, you know, could there have been oceanic whitetip species hiding in plain sight, and it's now critically endangered? I don't really know. That's a really good question. That's a really question. So, a meg that looks like a whale shark instead. Nope. Well, I wouldn't be surprised there'd be megalodon hybrids back in the day. Yep. Does that even count? So, yeah, I don't really know. It's interesting because it's like, another thing that's kind of fascinating to think about are the sharks that started to go extinct, not by our hand, but in our timeline, like in the Holocene, and they went extinct for different reasons. So I don't know. I don't really know. So it's a really good question. Like, how many sharks have been hiding in plain sight? I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I predict, just dumb gut feeling, that there are roughly 1,000. I would not be surprised if there are 1,000 sharks in the world. Like 1,000 shark species. I really would not be surprised. And I think that's through a mixture of species hiding in plain sight, in genetic complexes, and also deep water species that we have not seen yet. And small deep water things like lantern sharks, because those habitats are just not sampled really well. And those sharks, would feed on smaller prey items, and are able to kind of maybe be in areas that we just don't really fully understand yet. So I predict, gut feeling, I would not be surprised if there's like 1,000 shark species in the world. There's also places even in shallow water that we have not fully sampled. So, but yeah. Love the idea of megalodon hybrid. That is so cool. Like, Roy, 1,300 species. 1,300. I'm very curious. Oh, Howard, good point, by the way. If you look at the fossil record, you can see a lot of meg relatives and ancestors. So we actually did see that on last week's stream. That transition. We have I love Atotis chubensis, the chub, but that transition of you have Anguistidens, chubensis, megalodon, how they smoothly transition from like one species to another, and it's sometimes hard to place them between two. But Rory, I am very curious. Is there a basis for the 1,300 species? Because that would be really cool. I would really love that. And actually, I mean, it's not. Let me think about. Let me see. Let me see if I can do this. Actually, I might be doing stupid math. I think I had about 350 shark species in the 1990s. Now there's 500, and I can't do math right now. It's too late. So I'm trying to think of like the factor of. This is really dumb. This is Monday brain. If I'm trying to figure out like the percentage of. This is a really dumb question, guys. But if I'm trying to figure out the percentage, like how much of a factor sharks have increased, is it? Let's say it's 360, and then right now we have 500. We actually have 545. Hold on, 360 divided by 545. I definitely have Monday brain. 66. So 360 is 66% of 545. So is that like a factor of 34%? Did shark diversity increase 34%? Am I doing that right? I don't know if I'm doing it right. The point being, shark diversity increased significantly back from like when I was a kid in the 90s. There was like 360 species, and then now in the 2020s there are 540 species. So, it's not impossible. It's like 1,300 is, it might not sound as ludicrous because like I never thought that, 200 species would be discovered in my lifetime, so. Howard, there must have been 5,000 prehistoric species or more. That's incredible to think about. And you're right, like in the fossil record, there might be 5,000 species or more. That's unbelievable. So yeah, lots of sharks, lots more to cover. Unfortunately, we are, and as I said, fortunately, I paused. I hope that did not sound like unfortunately. I meant fortunately. I just said before it. But anyway. We are at stream. Is this 102? This is 102. So, and we're only 1/5 of the way. So, which is incredible to think about. So, but guys, thank you so much for watching. This was a really great stream with, and thank you Mufasa again for suggesting that fantastic article that's brand new. It's only a year. It's not even a year old. And it really illustrated so much about this species. So the Carolina Hammerheads, this is not a Carolina Hammerhead, I don't think. This is a Carolina Hammerhead we know. This is a Carolina Hammerhead we know. A wonderful piece of art of the Carolina Hammerhead by Howard as well. But like that article was really cool, illustrating, or illuminating more of the biology of this very cryptic species. And it's really great that we have something like that, as like a basis for further research. So this was a really fun stream, and I'm so happy to be learning more about the Carolina Hammerhead, and some of the things that make it distinct from Scalloped Hammerhead. Before tonight, I just knew that they were distinguished by the vertebral counts, and I had no idea that ecologically. They actually might be occupying slightly different niches, like they're overlapping as pups, but the mothers might be in different places. So this is the first step in really understanding the bigger story about like what makes these species different, and eventually what are the conservation needs of the Carolina Hammerhead. Ooh, have we done? Oh, I'm sorry, Howard. We did do the spiny dogfish. I think that is strange. That's one of the early ones. Let me put that in the chat. I am pretty sure that's a really early stream. Yes, so let's see. Dogfish stream number 4. So yeah, that's a blast from the past. So yeah, we did do. This might have been before you and Roy joined our community. Actually, the first couple streams I ever did, I knew that. I mean, it was brand new, so I was going to be talking to the void a little bit. So I did the bull shark, the dusky smoothhound, the sand devil, and the spiny dogfish, also known as a pike dogfish. So yes, we did do that one. One of the very early ones. So it probably looks different. Did you draw it? Oh, let's see. If you, I'm checking it right now. I don't think you did because I don't have any illustration. But honestly, Howard, you're so welcome to draw any kind of shark, even if it's not next week's stream. If you like to do art on the spiny dogfish, also known as the pike dogfish, please go ahead and submit it. And that goes for any viewers. All art is welcome at all times. It could be any species of shark. It does not. If not, I have a submission for that. Oh, please send it. Yeah, please send it over. Honestly, anybody, any viewer who wants to send over art for sharks of any species, please go ahead and send it over, and I would be happy to showcase it. I love this part of our community, and yeah, even though we're not doing that species next week, more than welcome to send it over. So please go ahead and send it, and I'll showcase it next week. So, but guys, thank you so much for watching and for joining me on tonight's stream of the Carolina Hammerhead. Really loved what we learned tonight. And I'm super excited next week for the Big Eye Thresher. It's a great pick. I think we're getting close to filling out the lamniforms, and that's actually going to be really cool. And since we're very close, we might make that a goal for 2025 to like knock all the lamniforms out, which would be incredible if we could do that. So we're extremely close because it's not a very speciose group. So, but we'll stay tuned for next week for the Big Eye Thresher. We'll cover it and learn more about the shark and how it hunts with an amazing whip-like ability. But until then, hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and cheers to sharing the stream together and sharing our love for sharks together. So I'll see you next week, guys. Have a good one, and take care. Bye.